In this video, I'm going to show you how to make and mount a floating mantle, as well as a raised hearth. I'm going to be making both of these pieces out of red oak because they have to be stained. Red oak is pretty inexpensive for hardwood. I get it locally at a Rockler by me. The boards are of decent quality. They sometimes have a little bow in them, but you can't beat the price, and these are both going to be stained. Red oak takes stain really well. The other nice thing about getting these boards from Rockler is they're surfaced on 3 sides, so for someone like myself who does not have a jointer, I could take them right to the table saw. The surface side could ride against the fence, and I could take all of my boards and cut them up to size. So for the raised hearth, basically I needed a 12-inch wide section, and I wanted to keep this pieces around the same width, so about 4 inches each, 3 pieces. Like I said, I just ripped the one side clean, picked the faces of them based on the nicer grain patterns, and I always make these sorts of things oversized but pretty simple. It's a flat glue up panel, very similar to a tabletop without all the added complications of making a breadboard. Can add glue to all of my pieces, put them in clamps, add some cauls, and just let that dry overnight. So pretty simple for, like I said, the raised hearth, and this is roughly a little over 6 feet by 12 inches wide. At this point it's about 13, and I will trim it down. You can see how I glued it up with some cauls to keep all those boards flat because some of them did have bows in them, and I could take all the clamps off. And I do sand this. I didn't film it, but you'll see how I sand the mantle. Same principle. For the mantle, I cut all these pieces up when I did the original milling of the lumber, and the mantle itself is 6 inches deep and 4 inches tall. It's going to have an open back, so I only need to do 3 sides, 2 at 6 inches, 1 at 4 inch, and then I'm just cutting 45s along the sides. If you watch the channel, sometimes I like to do lock miters or miters with splines, but because this glue up is going to include all long edge grain, that's more than substantial enough for this. If it was end grain, that's usually where I try to use different joinery techniques, because end grain to end grain is going to be your least stable glue joint. To do the mitered edges on these, really simple. I just put a stop in my crosscut sled. All of my pieces are cut to length at this point, so the stop will mean it's removing the same amount of material off of all of my sides, so they still stay perfect. Now, like I said, one of the reasons I don't like long miters is because you saw those bows in the board at the beginning. It's really hard sometimes to keep bowed boards flat on the table to get perfect miters. I sent all of my pieces through twice originally on the table saw, applied a lot of downward pressure, and everything turned out pretty good on this one. I can make my edge pieces out of some scrap cutoffs from the ends, so they're just going to be 6 inches long by 4 inches tall, and once again I can use the same technique with the stop in order to cut those edge pieces. Now, one of the hardest parts of miters is gluing everything together because the pieces naturally want to slide around on you, so I glued up the box, and then you'll see I put the caps on at the end. But that is basically what those end caps look like. I had nice standard miters on all of these. Now, because this is solid wood and it's going to be cantilevered off of the front of this, I did want to add some supports on the inside, which will also help support the front cleat system, which I'm using to mount this on the media wall. So simply put, I just put a series of dados on all of my pieces. I could use a stop on the radial arm saw, and I could cut all of those dados equidistant from each other, 2 at a time, and then 1 in the center. I did 2 on each side, so that's a total of 5. A center one, and then 2 coming off the center on each edge. I did that on the 4-inch piece and both 6-inch pieces. Like I said, you could see I could flip it and line it up with that stop, cut them all at the same time so all of my grooves are in the exact same spot. And I'm just going to do some plywood blanks to fit in all of those pieces. And like I said, dry fitting this is always a little bit of a challenge. I'm using some weighted materials as well as clamps in order to get everything in place. But with those dados, you could see how these scrap pieces of ply will slide right in place, and then especially in this view, you can really see the bow in some of those boards, and clamping. Now I have those, not only these pieces add structure to the mantle, but I could use them as clamping pressure to keep everything in place. So it worked out in two separate ways. So this is the dry fit. I can flip it over once the glue's all in place on the bottom, and then you can see I can align the top as well with clamps, and the clamps will help pull everything together with those slats in the middle. Otherwise, miter joints just want to slide around on you, which is why people will add spline to them to help with alignment in the glue up. And then the glue up I filmed in vertical and put that on TikTok and a YouTube short, but it was basically the exact same process. I just obviously added glue. I could flip it over and clamp on my edge caps. You could see the clamps will pull all of my joints together. And all in all, for such a long piece, usually you'll get some hairline cracks, little ones here and there on the edges, but the edges I all smoothed over because it's a raised mantle. They don't have to be perfectly square, and I was pretty happy with how this whole thing ended up gluing up. Could flip it back around the next day once all the glue was dry, take all of my clamps off and sand all of that dry glue off. I try to remove as much as possible, but there's always a little bit underneath the clamps that needs to be cleaned up as well, and I was cleaning up the raised hearth at this time. I have a bunch of leftover pre-cut 45 pieces on red oak ply leftover for my French cleat wall, but the red oak ply is going to be less than 3/4 of an inch, and this red oak is actually 13/16. So I had to trim off a little bit of material in order to get that red oak to fit in there. So all I'm doing is adjusting for the fact that the red oak is skinnier. It was about 1/8 of an inch. I ripped off all of the sides, which worked out nicely because once it was glued up, I could doing that straightened up any undulations I had in the back, and you could see now that cleat that I'm going to add will fit against that mitered edge. Now I originally mitered all the pieces because I was deciding which ones I wanted to face forward, which part was top and bottom. It works out nicely that way. If you have a bad glue up on one side or one bottom, that gave me the ability to flip it whichever way I wanted to add the French cleat, which is why that back side is also like that. So I could make the original French cleat that's going to be attached to the mantle. I just ripped that down so it's small enough to add another piece, but the problem is I wanted a thick enough cleat so that this had some structure hanging off of the media wall, and the 45 I have on there was getting in the way. It would have had to be removed if it was straight material anyway, but it will give me, I'll be able to leave that French cleat that attaches to the media wall about 3/4 of an inch longer, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is. So I just put a straight edge on my router and remove that groove, and now you can see the piece that gets attached to the mantle is cut on both sides, and I could permanently attach that with some glue and some brads. I also put some screws in there as well, so that everything will hold together really nicely. And then the secondary piece gets attached to the media wall. Those two 45s fit together snugly. They marry together on the wall, and that's how that system works. It's really easy, super easy to level. I could attach that directly into the media wall. If you watch the frame build of this, that's going directly into my 2x4 frame on the inside of the wall, and everything holds in place. When I put that together in the space, because that area is open, I could also go in from the back side and add some screws through the back into the mantle, and then it doesn't move at all. To finish up the raised hearth, like I said, I made it oversized so I could trim it down on the table saw, rip it down to about, I think it ended up being about 12 1/4, clean up the edges, and then go about mounting this. Now originally I was just going to put a piece of trim across the bottom and slide this in place, but I didn't really like the way that works, and if you haven't been following along with this series, these sides pull out, and I was nervous about eventually getting binding on the sides and the tabletop. So what I decided to do was actually just notch part of the trim on the pullouts, and that way that will go behind where the raised mantle is going to be. I'm not super nervous about wood movement because the raised mantle is flush against the media wall, so it can't expand anymore into the media wall. So the little gap I have here will be more than enough over time to allow this to keep opening and closing. Now I didn't permanently attach this. I'll use some figure eights probably to attach the raised hearth to the frame, but in the shop at this point at least that's all I did, and I did it on both sides. To finish both these up, I've done work for this customer before, so I already knew the stain color they wanted, the finish for that, as well as the finish for the media wall. I put some pre-stain on it, which will point out any glue spots I have left over, and then this is a honey colored stain going on the top. If you watch the shorts I post on this channel, I didn't wait long enough for this stain to dry, which is a mistake I've made before. It's a really stupid mistake. I was rushing and trying to get the clear coat on it before it was fully dry. The stain actually lifted a little bit, so I actually ended up having to resand both of these and stain them again. But then I got to the point where I could put General Finishes oil-based satin on there. Between each coat, I like to lightly sand with 300 grit paper, remove all of the dust, and then put another coat of finish on there until I get 3, and then that is what those two pieces look like. I've already delivered all of this stuff to the customer's house, but I'm not installing it until next week. I don't know if I'll get a full install video, but I do hope to get at least some photos. And then, like I said, the color for this was just a bare Home Depot color, bare grade paint, which I like, and it was really easy to do with a sprayer as well, so nice quick work on that. And then this is what it looked like the day before it was being transferred out of the shop.